everyone, it's Di here from Di Stand, and today I'd like to show you these cards. So I've actually made 3 of them already. This one we did as a crafty day with some friends, which we do every now and again, and I loved it so much. And I haven't done a centre pop-up fold card for ages, so I thought I'd do a centre step card for you all for a nice Christmas card. And we're going to do one that's like this one today. So this is the card we're going to be making, this one, and we're going to make one exactly the same as this, except for that bit that's sticking up. So I will show you what you're going to be needing. So let's pop these ones out of the way for a moment. Whoops, there we go. And we are going to be using all of these bits. So I have some stamps already out on the blocks. So we are going to be using, let's start at this end, the Peace on Earth for Peace on Earth, and for the dove on this set. So that's out there already. So I've got that there. Let's pop that over there. I'm also going to be using the Merry Christmas and Happy Wishes from the Jolly Delivery, only because that's really a pretty one, and you'll see it in my card. We're also going to be using the Branches Out dies. I didn't buy the stamp set, I just bought the dies because I wanted these layered dies. So we're going to be using this die here, which I've already cut out, and this smallest one here for this card. So let's pop them back in there. I'm going to do a little bit of blending, and I'm going to be using Pretty Peacock for that, and I'm going to be stamping in Pretty Peacock. Now I've got these look like they are bluey, but they look really nice on, greeny rather, but they look really nice on the Pretty Peacock. I'm also going to be using my marker, which is, I'm going to be using the, oh my goodness, I'm having a mental blank today. This one, which is called Early Espresso. We're going to be using that one, and we are going to be using this beautiful ribbon called Metallic Striped Ribbon. So that's it, and we've got the Merry Christmas, which actually looks really pretty. So let me show you what bits we're going to be needing, which is not a real lot. It looks a lot, but it's not. So I've actually cut out 2 of these doves, and I've cut them out of basic beige. So I'm using, there's the bit of greenery that we're going to be using, and these are all the pieces. So you're going to need a card base that measures 5 7/8 by 8 1/4. Now for the front middle section, you're going to need a piece that measures 3 3/4 by 3 inches, and then a piece of designer series paper on the top that measures 3 5/8 by 2 7/8, sorry. So this one I'm going to do the opposite way around to the one I did before. So for the bottom strip along the bottom, you're going to need a piece that measures 5 3/4 by 7/8 of an inch, and then a piece of designer series paper that measures 5 5/8 by 3/4 of an inch. Then for my 2 sides pieces, you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 7/8 of an inch by 3 inches long, and then 2 pieces of designer series paper that measure, where is it? Come on. 3/4 of an inch by 2 7/8 of an inch. Now, I'm only putting 1 layer on the inside of mine, but if you're doing 2 layers, you'll need a piece that measures 5 3/4 by 3 inches. And then for the other piece, which I've done in this card, I've done the 2 layers. So, but the other ones here have only got the one layer, as you can see, just there, and that one's just the one layer. So we're doing a one layer one today, but the instructions will have for the 2 layers. So this will be 5 3/4 by 3 inches, and then your second layer would be 5 5 inches by 2 7 inches. Now this is my sentiment thing from the front, and this measures, I don't know, that's not in inches, and I can't work it out. 3 1/8 by 1 3/4 of an inch. So that's all of our pieces. So let's pop all of these out of the way. So we're going to do this one the opposite way around to what we did the other one, with the pieces up one way and then the other. Let's move that, and we're going to bring in our trimmer. Before we do any scoring, we're going to do some trimming. So I've got to stand up for this piece because otherwise I can't see. So we're going to pop our piece of card in the short side at the 1 inch mark here. So I'm using the 1 inch mark on this side, and I'm going to bring my cutting blade down to the 1 inch mark. Now I can't see that, so I'm going to have to bring that out a minute so I can see it. Okay, so then I'm going to pop that back in there, and then I'm going to cut from the 1 inch mark. And you know what, I'm going to go get my other cutting board, my other trimmer. I'm using my other trimmer for the simple reason is on this one I have put a piece of double-sided tape down there so that I can actually see the numbering down there. Other than that, there's nothing different about these 2 boards. So once again I'm going to pop that in there at the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to bring my blade to the 1 inch mark, and I'm going to cut down to the 5 1/8 mark. Okay, I'm leaving my blade there, and I'm going to bring this over so that the 1 inch mark of the score line is just on this side now. And then I'm going to drop this down, making sure that's still in the 5 1/8 mark. And I'm going to cut up to the 1 inch mark. So I've got 2 cut lines like so. Now I can pop that board out of the way. Pop that one on one side so I remember that that one goes over the other side. And we're going to bring in our scoreboard. Now you could score this on your trimmer if you wanted to, but I just find it easier to do it on here. So I'm using the small ball, and I'm going to score. So I've got the 1 inch line here and the 5 1/8 up here. So we're going to score at 1 inch down to that cut line, and then we're going to do 1 inch down to the 2 inch mark down to that cut line, and then the 5 1/8 down to that cut line, like so. Then we're going to turn it over only because it's easier, and we're going to do the same again. So we're going to score that 1 inch down to that cut line, at the 2 inch to the cut line, and then at the 5 1/8 to that cut line, like so. Then I can turn it back, and then I can just go over them again so that they're the right way around. Now I'm using a ruler only because I find it easier. You don't have to do this, but I find it easier. You can line it up with the 4 1/8, and then from the inside of that you're going to score across. I only need to line it up there. You can then pull that away once you've got your thing inside. So we're going to score in between the fold lines, the cut lines, at the 4 1/8 mark. So once you've done that, that is all of our cutting and scoring done. So once we've got that, this is the way I find it easier to do. I find it easier to start with the 4 1/8 mark and just give it a squish. Then these 2 5 1/8 marks squish in better, and these two front ones squish in better, and then these 2-inch ones fold up. So you can fold it up then after you've squished it a little bit on all of them. Why isn't that one going? There. I haven't got that white scored in the right place there. Look at that. Let me double check that score line. Bring that one back in. That's scored in the right place. Oh, why doesn't that one want to squish down properly? There we go. There we go. That's my girl. Now you've got it. Alright, so now we've got that. We're going to give them a good burnish down. But why is this one not coming all the way down here? Maybe I didn't have that on the 4 1/8 mark. 5 1/8 mark properly. So we're going to give that a nice squash down like so. Once we're happy with that, we can turn it inside out, and we're going to squash them down on the inside like so, so that they're all nice and square, and the card will stand up, ta-da, on its own. Alright, so then we're going to bring in all of our pieces. So you stay there. So bring in all of my pieces like so. Don't you fall on the floor. And we're going to start by popping these on. So this time I'm going to use this side up, and the other one I did this way up. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that that's way up, and these were the other way. So this time I'm going to do them the opposite way around. So I'm going to pop that one on there like so. Alright, so we're going to glue those two pieces together, and I forgot to check my glue before we started, so I'm hoping it's going to come out. Yay! Today it is, because it's warm. So when it's cold, it just feels like, oh, I don't want to work. And I don't blame it. I don't like working when it's cold either. Okie dokie. So, I've got that onto there. And we've got a small margin on these ones. Now, I've got a bit of a funny edge on this piece of card. So, I'm just going to use my emery board there just to pop that on nicely. Now, if you've got a directional paper, just be careful of that, because you do need this piece in the centre to be the correct way. So we're going to pop that one on here, and that's the centre piece. Okay, centre's on. So then we've got our piece for the bottom, which is our 7/8 by 5 3/4, and then our piece of designer series paper, which is 5 5/8 by 3/4 inch, and we're going to pop those two pieces together. This time I'm going to pop the opposite side on. Now I've got very small margins on this one, only because that's what I wanted. I'm not a small margin person, but just lately, that's how they've been. And then this one's going to go down here like so. And we need to go over that way a little bit. Come on. Squizzle along. Move along. Come on. There we go. So we've got our front piece on, and then we have our two pieces for the sides, and they are going to go the same way as this bottom piece. So we're going to pop them on. So once again, just making sure that you have everything with the right orientation. Then we're going to pop this one over Might as well do this one while we're at it. And we can just glue them on. So we're going to lay this flat out like this. It's just easier to put these on when they're flat. Okay, so, oh, I've got that folded the wrong way. That's better. Alright, so we've got that all on there like so. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our ribbon, and we're going to pop some ribbon around our piece. So we're going to pop it through here and out the other side, and making sure that it's flat on the other side. Going to bring it around, and we're going to tie it into a bow. Get a nice tight bow and then bring that down a little bit. Come on. Oh gosh, pulling the wrong one. That's better. So then we're going to cut that off there and pop that out of the way. So we've got our little bow on there, and that looks really pretty. This one's a little bit long, so we'll give that a bit of a trim. Oops. Trim. There we go, that's better. Alright, so once we've done that, what we're going to do next is we're going to bring in a piece of scrap paper. And I've got a little bit of scrap here. And we're going to bring in our two pieces of these, and we're going to bring in our pretty peacock. I'm going to start here with this one. So we're going to pop some pretty peacock on here. And because we don't want it too dark, we're going to just pop it on nice and lightly, like so. Now to me that's plenty. So once I'm happy with that, and I'm only doing like half of it because I'm going to stamp on the other half. I'm then going to bring in my other piece, which I want to do in this top corner. So I'm going to bring that around that angle because it's easier for me. And once again, I'm just going to bring this in like so. I'll just pop that on there, just make sure that he's going to fit on there nicely. Yep, so he's on there nicely, so we can then pop that out of the way for now. Alright, and then we're going to bring in our early espresso. And now you can do this with your blend pens, but it can actually damage the tips, so we're doing it with our markers, and because our markers are going, so if we damage them, we are in trouble if we use them a lot. So I'm just putting a few speckles on there like so, just to give it a bit of interest. Okay, so we're happy with that. We can pop that away like so. And now we're going to bring in our pretty peacock, and we're going to stamp our piece on earth onto our saying sentiment tag. Like so. And then we're going to bring in our Merry Christmas and Happy Wishes. And we're going to stamp that down here. Like so. And that's all our stamping done then. Alright, so let's move them all out of the way, including that bit, and bring back in our card. So we're going to put our middle bit in first before we do the front bit, because it's just that it's easier, because we can lay that flat there, and we can then glue this into the inside of our card. And I'm getting a bit of glue sticking on there. Okay, so if you're like me and you've only got the one piece in here, that's fine. And we're going to then bring in one of our doves, and we're going to pop some glue onto the back of our dove. And he's going to go up in this top corner here. Now if you look, at all of our cards are very similar, and we do have to thank Andrea Sargent for that, because her layout is the design we're using. So I'm going to glue this on flat on here now, this piece of twig, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to pop that on there. So yes, the main design idea was from Andrea Sargent, and I loved it, so I've actually copied it, and I hope she's happy with my interpretation of this. Okay, so that is on there nicely. This time I'm going to lay this one flat and put this up onto dimensionals. So I'm going to lay this one flat on the card front. Like so. And then I'm going to get some dimensionals. Yep, there's some on there still. So I'm going to pop a couple on here, and the big ones, and I want a couple of small ones as well. Like so. And then we can pop these off and lay our dove over the top of this greenery, like so. Now let me pop the pin in my glue so that it doesn't go all dicky. Right, and we can bring in our embellishments here, and my little picker tool, and this time I'm going to use the bigger ones, and they just look just perfect because of that little bit of sparkle in them, and they do look like they actually really belong on these. Oh, come on, get off. So that was our card for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like the written tutorial for this card, please head down below here and you will find Di's Den for Stamping, Crafting and Tutorials. There you can pick up the, go to my Facebook group and you will find the written tutorial, which goes live exactly the same day. If you've enjoyed today's card and you'd like to know more about these products because they're all current, I would love you to contact me. I'd love to be your demonstrator, and I'd love you to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment, and please subscribe, because if you subscribe you won't miss out on any of the other projects. So here we go. These are the cards we've done today. This is the one that Andrea did in our crafty day. When we have our crafty day, we all make a project, all different, and everybody brings the stuff for everyone to use, and it just works out really great. So thank you, Andrea, because I really love this card, and thank you to you people as well. If you've enjoyed this, I'm happy. Bye for now.